an arm and a head. You know, normally playing this deck costs you an arm and a leg, but today it's costing him an arm and a head. Hello, mathematicians, and today we're going to obliterate with math. And what do I mean by that? Well, take a look at this card right here. This is the most unstoppable Exodia Incarnate, but the problem is, ew, look at this. We have to play a bunch of bricks, and then we have all these different starters we could play, and the ratios that we have to choose from is just, we have to pull out our head. It's mind-boggling. In fact, to get the true answers, I even asked the community, and look at this. They couldn't even agree on anything here. I asked more than 600 people here, if you're playing the new Exodia with Millennium cards, how many cards do you want to run in your deck? 40, 50, or 60, right? Do you want to run like 60 to drown out those bricks? Or do you want to run 40 for better consistency odds? Well, I did the homework for you, so we're going to dive into that today. But real quick, let's take a look at how many bricks just there are in the Exodia deck too. Look at this. Ew, so many bricks here. Mario is en route to location because he loves all these bricks. We can get all the coins out of these cards here, right? And because look, we even play 2 of the traps. Pretty much everyone plays 2 of the traps, so that's 7 bricks right there. And then all the different starters, you could play up to 3 of these each, right? 3, 6, 9, 10, 12, 18 right there. And then even if you want to play as terraforming in some things, that's like 19. Some formats it's banned, so you could replace that with like a small world, or even over here you could replace that dragon with a Melody of Awakening to search the dragon. So you could have anywhere from an upwards from anywhere as low as like 12 starters, even like 10 starters if you want, all the way up to like something like 25 starters. That's a lot. And really, when we're talking about math and stuff, I want to break it down, and I want to see what other formats are doing, right? So let's look at Master Duel here. Their average deck size when it comes to this Exodia thing is 46 cards. The TCG is running it in about 43 card deck size, while the OCG likes them a bit bigger, you know what I'm saying? They're running it at 45 cards. They're like a little bit bigger than the TCG, and in fact, actually, Master Duel likes it nice and big the most, you know what I'm saying? They like them big old decks. Anyways, going off of that, let's see more things on how people are having success with it, because it's okay good for the average player to run it, but what are people having success with? Look at this. This was a top 100 in the Duelist Cup. Very, very recent. A top 100 is very hard to do, especially in the Duelist Cup. Look at this. So this guy got top 100 running 46 cards. Don't know his name, but very appreciative of you for giving us that deck list. Then we got a Lorenzo Jose Perez here, the last name Perez, so you know I got to showcase him. Got first place in a Hollywood October 2024 regional with 150 players. No joke, that's pretty hard to do. He was using this card right here, which is deadly. A lot of stun cards here, so that's pretty deadly. But he was running a 40 card deck. He's running a 40 card deck. And then finally, look at this. This guy's our 60 deck card here. He got some win streaks or something. I kind of stretched it out because he had like something to say here. He's using a lot of interesting tech cards. He's mentioning Iron Dragon Tiamat or something like that, so I'll leave it up to you to read, but he's using these like very interesting tech cards, so if you want to check that out. But look, he's having success in Master Duel using a 60 card deck, so look at that. We've got people using all different kinds of mathematical deck numbers, and guess what? I did the homework for you guys right now. Let's look at these decks, analyze it with the homework, baby. Yeah, so you don't have to. I'm gonna do the homework for you because I like to do this kind of stuff. Let's see here. How are we gonna analyze these graphs? And ooh, I've got my friend here, my deadly cat in the background too, to do the homework with us. Anyways, so this is the first place TCG guy, right? This is the Perez deck here. This is the Duelist Cup top 100 guy, and this is the Giga Chad Tech deck here, the guy with the win streak, the Tiamaton deck guy. And you can see here just how different the math is. And what do I mean by that? Oh yes, Deadly Cat wants to see the math. Good job. Yes, it would be catastrophic if I didn't do that math for him. Get it? Catastrophic. Anyways, it'd be a catastrophe if I didn't do this math. Let's look at these categories. So the size here is the different sizes of the decks, right? We had a 40 card deck, a 46 card deck, and a 60 card deck, right? They all chose to run 7 bricks, and they ran different number of starters. I counted the different starters that they were running. So the guy with the TCG player is having a 40 card deck, has a 64% chance to see 1 brick in his deck. What do I mean by the bricks again? That's the limbs or any of the traps, right? The 5 limbs and the 2 traps. So he's got a 64% chance to see one of those, a 20% chance to to see 2 limbs or like a limb and a trap, something like that, right? You're going to see it's going to cost you an arm and a leg 20% times to see this, literally, because you're going to see the arm and a leg 20% times. And then even 3% of your games, you're going to see 3 of them. Like, ooh, 3 limbs. Not that good to see. But for as much as he's been seeing all of these bricks, remember, he had great success. 95% chance to see a starter, which is very high. In fact, borderlining on hyper consistency. I don't really like hyper consistency, but a very interesting thing about these decks is that they, pretty much all of the Exodia cards that were starters are also extenders. So by that very effect, if you Ash Blossom one of the cards, well, the second one comes into effect here. So that's why 72% consistency after one of your cards has been ashed is actually pretty good, and I could see why he got first place. The Larazo Jose Perez, good job, because this is one of the few times maybe I could advocate for that level of consistency, especially since everybody and their mothers is running Ash Blossom and Imperm, Droll, all of these deadly cards to stop what you want to do. But Droll, by the way, would actually ruin your consistency if you're trying to go into like a snowballing thing, right, and bait stuff. So be wary of that. So maybe sometimes, again, it's not good. So again, you have to weigh depending on the hand traps being used. Our top 100 guy, again here, will only see his brick 58% of the time. Oh, see one of them. 16% chance he'll see 2, and 2% of the time he'll see 3. By the way, 0%, I know it says 0%. I rounded everything to no decimals because I don't want to be like 3.14159 pi, right? Like giving you all these decimals. I just wanted to make it easy on the eyes. I have bad vision as it is. So let's make it nice and easy on you guys for the eyes. So I didn't round to any decimals, but it's probably like 0.021 whatever. Just know that it's got rounded to the nearest whole number here. Finding the starters here. Interesting to note too, the 46 card guy used 14 starters, while the 60 card guy used 18 starters, and this guy used 17 starters. So even though he had more cards, he used less starters than the 40 card guy, which I thought interesting because he wants to see 85% consistency. He's in this top duel of GC Cups. He's going to see so many games per second. He wants to go fast. He wants to see consistency. He wants to know if he either wins or loses. I like that. And because he needs to play a lot of games. And again, here are his numbers too. And if he gets negated on one thing, he's still got a 50% chance to have 2 starters, which is pretty good. And then our Giga Chat here, look at this. He maintains almost the same level of consistency while reducing his brick chances. That's the power of Pine Saw, baby. That's the power of using a 60 card deck. He'll see his bricks less. But what's very important too, we gotta see this, even though his numbers now, look, he's got the same number of starters, right? Very good. I love that. And he reduced his bricks. He drowned out his bricks. I love that. We have to consider that he will be seeing his other, he piled on his deck all of his tech cards. He's seeing these weird techs now. He's seeing that Tiamatan, that Contact C, all of those weird stuffs that he was playing, whatever else that was in there. I saw some crazy stuff. And this guy was seeing more interesting stuff. He was seeing more of like the deadly traps, like I think like there can only be one, or like the rivalry of warlords, whatever kind of like stun things he was saying, the dimension shifter, he's seeing those more often than the Giga Chat tech guy would. So that's something to keep in mind of when you're making the 60 card deck. You have to make sure that the level of power is about the same. You know what I'm saying? That those 60 card fluffs are still equal in weight, the power, to the other cards. So that's also something to talk about and just to realize when we're making these decks. Now, I kind of did something here. I kind of maybe outdid myself here. I did something. I put these 3 really cool charts and graphs I really need to talk about when we're talking about these kind of things. Some of these I talked about before, and I could kind of made it so I could blue skidoo into whatever one of these graphs I want to do. So for example, if I wanted to go into this one, I just click it up here, and then if I wanted to go into the bottom one, I would just click the bottom one down here, right? And I would blue skidoo into that one. So that's pretty cool that I made that to do that. So we're going to be going into those real quick. But before I go into those graphs, I do want to say, if you like numbers and talking about graphs and math and real cool stuff like that, just give this video a sub, or come join the Discord. If you're already subscribed, come join the Discord, or at the very least, just like this video if you like math and stats. Helps the algorithm go a long way, and I love algorithms. And by the way, way, I do have a Twitch now where you could come see me streaming. Very rarely do I stream. Maybe I'll get into a schedule soon, but right now it's like finding a legendary Pokemon, like a shiny Pokemon even, if you see me streaming. So come join the channels and come check that out. Now, which one of these should we blue skidoo into first? You know, I don't think there's any wrong order to go into. I think they all have something valuable to say. So let's jump right into the top one there. Let's look at the 40 versus 60 card starter consistencies. This is always very important to know, especially because we're running so many starters and stuff between the different decks. And what is this? What is this chart really trying to show me here? Well, this represents your consistency if you're running a 60 card deck, and this is representing a consistency if you're running a 40 card stack. And one of the biggest misconceptions is that a 40 card deck is more consistent than a 60 card deck. But remember, that guy was able to achieve, our Giga Chad was able to achieve the same number of consistency that the 46 card guy have. And what do you mean by that? How can you do that? Well, let's take a number here on the graph, right? Let's say if you want to achieve this level of consistency, right? A little bit above 80%, 85% consistency. Right? Just move that line all the way over here so that the graph matches, right? So if you want to achieve that, you'd have to run 20 cards in a 60 card deck to achieve that level of consistency, while in a 40 card deck, you only need to run 13 cards of starters like that. So again, 13 cards will give you 87.73% consistency, while 20 cards will give you 87.95% consistency. So you could just do that and match up the consistencies if you're trying to find a specific level of consistency. A 40 card deck is not more consistent than a 60 card deck if a 60 card deck adds in more starters. That's the biggest misconception I always hear, is that 40 cards is more consistent than 60 cards. I don't like that. Let's just get out of that misconception. Anyways, well, let's blue skidoo into this one now, right here in the middle. Let's talk about the odds to draw a Garnet and Brick when we're going first. And why is this so important, especially for the Exodia deck? Again, the blue line here will represent a 40 card deck, and this orange line will represent a 60 card deck, right? Because we're less likely to see our Garnets in a 60 card deck, right? 8.3% chance to see one, or the 12.5 to see one copy at a 40 card deck, right? So the Exodia card deck, look at that. Remember, that guy had a 64% chance, because I rounded up, right? I got rounded to the nearest whole number. 64% chance to see it in the 40 card deck, and the 60 card deck guy only had a 48% or 47% chance to see it, right? If we go back to those numbers, right? So again, very, very crucial. And then the other guy had somewhere in the middle here. Very crucial to know your Garnet and Brick odds to see how much you're seeing that. Because again, right, let's just again go back here, right? The guy had a 47% chance to see that brick compared to the other guy that had a 64% chance to see the brick. So you can see there that the numbers are consistent, baby. That's what I like to see. Consistent numbers. Speaking of consistency, I was talking about this. 95%. The hyper consistency can be a bad thing. Normally it is, I would say, especially if you're running a lot of deck with a lot of normal summons and not that many extenders. But let's just talk about that in the context of this, right? Hyper consistency is normally a bad thing. But for here, I didn't really think it was such a bad thing. But let's just say you're running a deck with a bunch of normal summons, right? You're running 22 cards that can normal summon, or even a searcher that can search normal summon, something like that. You're running so many consistencies where you're having like a 99% consistency because you have 23 starters. Well, you could chew a lot of those away. All of those could have been different tech cards. That could have been your Tiamatan, or your There Can Only Be One, or Dimension Shifter, or whatever kind of cards you're running. Your Maxis, because they could be hand traps, they could be board breakers, they could be Regekis, you know what I'm saying? They could be however your style is, control, they could be your control cards, you know, your, what is it, the Bestials, right? Like the Bestial Regained and all that stuff, and all the fun stuff you could run. When we're talking about these cards here, though, all of them are pretty much, since they go in the back row, these cards, the Millennium cards do go in the back row. Very, very interesting. They have that effect all of the cards are extenders and they search, and I think that's very important when we're talking about this kind of stuff. So for here, I think a high level consistency is fine, since if you get ashed or something, it can work. But normally if you're running a deck, you don't want that, because look at these lines here. They're gonna go and they start getting smaller and smaller. That's called diminishing returns. I've talked about that in the past. And the less diminishing return, the less of a return you get, remember, the more of the chance that could be something like a starter, something like that. So I do recommend trying to hover probably around an 85% chance to see your starters, and maybe a bit more if they are, you know, if it's very, very hand trap heavy format and you just have everything else as like these special summons that could come out. That's why right now the Snake Eyes, White Forest, Diabellstar slot package is so strong, because they can place through so many different disruptions while maintaining a very high level of consistency. So that's something to pretty much look out for now. And the hyper consistency, although I said it was bad in the past, and I still do think it is, that's because people were really relying on one line. But if you can rely on a bunch of different lines, the hyper consistency doesn't end up being as bad as it once was. So I will retract a little bit on the hyper consistency as bad that I said it was in the past, because remember, as times change and the cards change, so the math does change. So anyways, I have now some case study stuff. Let's go into some example deck lists presented by some of our Discord community. They got some good stuff here. All right, hello. We've got FTK Adam going first. FTK Adam, a person in our Discord, getting max seeds starting out. I asked our Discord players to see if they can give me some Exodia replays, because I don't really use the Exodia deck, because again, a lot of them use the stun variants, and that's not really my style. So I don't really like playing that kind of stuff, but I did reach out for some help, and FTK Adam here is going to help us today. He's playing a, let's see what's going on here. He's got a 38, 39, 44, 42, 43, 44, 45 card deck, right? So he's choosing to do a number that's not even part of it, right? Silly rabbit, tricks are for kids. He's using a number that I didn't calculate. So he did manage to get an arm and a head. You know, normally playing this deck costs you an arm and a leg, but today it's costing him an arm and a head, 2 bricks, gets to the Millennium Ankh, right? Gonna use that Exodia Incarnate to get himself that, and oh no, the little rabbit has to go back to the hand too, because, or back to the deck, because when Exodia comes out, only Exodia cards are allowed to be on the field, or the Millennium cards, so for as far as monsters are concerned. So those are going to go back, and now we're going to get the Fires of Rage, Exod Fires of Rage, allowing us to do a little bit here, but we're up against how many cards here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 cards. That's absolutely devastating, and I don't know why we're not triggering the Azarun now. Maybe we should trigger that now. And also, if we're going to use Max C, you should just use Max C nowadays, I would say, in the standby phase or even the draw phase, because of cards like Cashier Fenrir, Diabellstar, and look at this, speaking of Diabellstar, he's going to add a Diabellstar card, so he is on the Diabellstar package. So I would just consider using Max C right away. Also, you could tell if your opponent's going to do a Max C, then you could chain your Max C to his Max C. I'm surprised he didn't have an Ash Blossom with all these cards in his hand for this Max C. But anyways, so now a little bit of equilibrium here. A little mouse coming out here. A little Squeak Knight. This guy's going to do some damage, I bet. This guy looks devastating. Is that a mouse trap he's got for a shield? That's pretty cute. Anyways, what's not cute is our opponent is also here using Makanko cards. Makanko, pretty deadly, known for FTKing you as well, or coming back from the back burner. Also using Droll and Lockbird. He says, I've had enough of you gaining cards. Speaking of gaining cards, FTK Adams already got 3 Exodia cards and popping this whole field with the Exod Fires of Rage. Exod Fires of Rage, of course, being known for greatly popping all of the cards on the field, so that's a good use right there. It also negating a card here. We get to negate 1 spell and trap for turn if we do use that. Now here comes the Diabellstar Black Witch. Definitely going to use the Azarun for that. That's a great use of Azarun there. Get rid of that, and all of a sudden our opponent, who had 9 cards, is all of a sudden down to 1. So this Exodia deck putting in a lot of work, getting in a lot of value where value was given, going into the battle phase. Good job not activating your effect to give you 8,000 attack, because that would have just killed yourself. But you are going to get spun back to the backfield, back to the deck, he says. Away with you, sir. And wow, we've got a lot of Exodia cards in the hand here. That's pretty good. Shield of the Millennium, of course, will pay 2,000 life points to get the Ankh back, baby. Ankh time, because that means he's going to come right back. And these 2 cards are going to get Doomed Dragon. Doomed Dragon is an excellent tech, I think, that Exodia players put in these Exodia decks, because they have so much card in the backfield, allowing you to push your opponent's card in the backfield. You know what I'm saying? Push it back back is now it's going to stay as a continuous spell. That's a fate worse than death, because now it's just looking at you in stone, staring at you in stone. And now we're going to reveal the 3 Exodia pieces, right? And here we go, revealing the 3 Exodia pieces, getting back that Unstoppable Incarnate. Unfortunately, the Doom Dragon's going to have to go back, but maybe unlike the rabbit going back, I don't mind the Doom Dragon going back, because you can just summon it back out again. Boom, baby, 6,000 to the face. That's a lot to take to the face. I don't like taking 6,000 damage to the face anytime. And here's really what's really cool is Exod Fires of Rage allows you to get an Exodia piece. Now, even though he's playing 45 cards, he's managed to get 4 pieces of Exodia now into his hand. If he can set this one last Exod of Rage and activate it, that will get him in the graveyard the 5th and final piece of Exodia. So that's really absolutely cool. Now, what's crazy is now our opponent is only on 2 cards. He couldn't do it with 9 cards. I doubt he could do it with 2 cards. He draws Bonfire off the top, because this one card is still going to be the one card. And actually, unfortunately for him, yeah, it looks like he's just going to give up here. I get slightly saddened, because I was hoping to see the win with the Exod Fires of Rage, gathering all 5 pieces of Exodia. So in a way, I feel like the little kid that's like, what do you want to be grow up? And I'm like, ooh, I want to be an NFL player. But then I realized I am only like 5'8", and I will never be an NFL player, right? Because my stature wasn't built tall enough. So the teacher crushing my dream. Here, DK Adam crushed my dream a little bit, because I thought we were going to see, or maybe Lynn crushed my dream because he gave up too soon. I wanted to see that 5th and final piece of Exodia added to the hand. But great replay nonetheless. Thank you, FTK Adam, for that. And he's got one more to show me too. All right, Adam's going first now, and here's what's interesting. Here's why I don't really like to play this deck. We're going to see the other parts of the package he was running. He's running some kind of stun card, some kind of stun variant. Ew. And I don't like helping out stun players, but this is I'm going to commentate it anyways, because, you know, again, this is what most of the Millennium players are using. They are running this stun package here. So, you know what I'm saying? The deal's on math, and I love to do math, so let's do the math on this stuff. And here comes Silhouette Rabbit again, poking his head out. Silly Rabbit, tricks are for kids, gonna get that Azaroon statue. And here we go. Here's a mistake I think that, Adam, you make, right? He's in Diamond. He's a Diamond level player, and there's just some little things that maybe Diamond players, that Master players do, that Diamonds won't. I think the order of operations here was just a little messed up. He plays the Dimensional Fisher first, and I hate to help out stun players, but, you know, he's in the Discord, so he gets help. You know what I'm saying? I'm always going to help my Discord members, so if you're a stun player, come on through to the Discord, I'll help you out. And he then used Heart of the Blue Eyes. Blue Eyes, this Blue Eyes card has a really, nice, super, ultra rare, whatever you want to call that. Good artwork, Blue Eyes. It says if this card is in your graveyard and you've activated Millennium Octus Duel, if your opponent summons a monster that's level 8 or higher, you get to send that to the graveyard and special summon this card. I really think that because you played your Dimensional Fisher too early, right? You got excited, played that in without realizing the future that you're going to end up having this card. You now, unfortunately, had to send this card to the Banish Zone. So that's a mistake, I think so here, because now we have a second Millennium Oct. And we don't we lose an interruption that way, right? Where you could have played Dimensional Fisher at the end of your turn. So anyways, we are still going to get the Unstoppable Exodia Incarnate here, and our Rabbit's going to go back to the little hat, right? Rabbit goes back to the hat because only Millennium monsters can stay out. But we wanted to get the Angel Statue of Azaroon. We saw how much work it put in last time. It puts in good work. And now here's something interesting. Because we're playing the anti-spell fragrance, we have to set the Millennium Ankh just in case they out our board, and we need to do that, meaning we can't set the super polymerization right now, unfortunately, because we want that space to go to the Exod Fires of Rage. So we're losing out on a second disruption here. So now we're immediately going to use the anti-spell fragrance in the standby phase. I think you should chain this Angel Statue of Azaroon right now too as well, because a lot of the opponents will special summon some devastating cards. They'll special summon Kashtira Fenrir, they'll special summon Diabellstar. A lot of these cards, and Kashtira Fenrir can definitely get rid of some of these cards, so you definitely want to be able to get rid of that, especially because you don't want to waste your Exiled Fires of Rage or something on that, getting rid of some baits or something. But we are going against Ubel here, it looks like. Ubel has these kind of cards here, and now we're going to use the Angel Statue of Azaroon. He already knew where this Azaroon statue was, so I don't see why we're holding on to that. Can we only do that in the main phase or something? No, I'm reading the card now. It doesn't look like we're forced to summon the main phase. I think you should just immediately immediately use that. Because, yeah, definitely. And now he's going to go into Salamander Unicorn with his Proud Horn. And, oh, we're going to use Azaroon on this. I don't think that's the right move, because normally when they go into the Almirage here, they're going into SP Little Knight. Wait for them to go into SP Little Knight, because, again, they cannot activate the effects if you go into the SP Little Knight, because you're immediately getting it off the field. It doesn't technically hit the field yet, right? It says, again, when your opponent was special summon a monster and this card is in your monster zone, send it to the graveyard when they would special summon a monster. So that means you negate the summon. The SP Little Knight wouldn't be out on the field yet for him to do any of the double effects, so you don't have to waste it on the Almirage here. In fact, because look at this, now he's going to probably chain and go into a Phantom of Yubel. Phantom of Yubel is another card that you'd probably like to see of the Azaroon wasted on. These cards are going into the Banish Zone too, so seeing another card going into the Banish Zone would have been nice here, because look, he will get that Phantom of Yubel, so if he has any other follow-up cards, that would be absolutely devastating, but you do have a lock on him with that thing, and of course he's going to have to tap out. But just those little bit of mistakes here, I think would have been is really good to know there. And also, I think he made a mistake there too, since he had the Spirit of Yubel. Spirit of Yubel does get to come out during the battle phase, allowing him to set his cards. That could have like set him up for next turn, but you know what? I think it didn't matter either way. I think he was screwed because the lock is just too good here. You have such a deadly tight grip on him. I don't think he could have escaped your strangle. That strangle that you're giving him, not the kind of strangles I like, because you're giving him a stun strangle, you're like really choking him out. I like to do a little bit of a grind game struggle. You're going into a knockout, just sucking the soul out of his body immediately, where I like to suck it little by little, the soul out of his body. But either way, his connection failed, so that's enough for him to pull the plug on this deck. This deck is a very plug pulling deck. FTK Adam, thank you for sharing us with your deck again, even though it's not my cup of tea. I think your tea is a nice brew. You are brewing something good there. Not my cup of tea, but I'm glad you enjoy it and having a good time, especially defeating a Yubel player. Always good to defeat them.